So, hang on one second. Okay. So, okay, Tess, can you hear me now? Let me know, please. So, I was looking for Sister Donna, who was our boss, and I asked Josh where she was, and he said, I don't know, but I saw her gold car in the parking lot. And I said, she doesn't have a gold car, her car is gray. And we started to argue about the color of her car. And I was like, that teaching came to mind, and I'm like, how much does this matter? And I was just like, yeah, you're right, it's gray. And when I saw the car, it's one of those cars that, depending on the light, could be gold or gray. So I could totally understand how we had different perceptions of the car. But as an example, I give quite frequently. So you've been in my mind anyway. Come on in. In real life, and I always manifested him. Come on in. It's true. It's really true. Yeah. Hi. Welcome. Um, hey man, sometimes, has to be that way. Hey Tess, can you hear me, honey? Let me text her. Okay. Sometimes we have issues. Mhm. Tim, nice to meet you. I think I'm meeting you for the first time. Okay. Because with the mask was sort of like, um, let's see. Do. Okay, well, we're going to start. Hopefully, we don't have an issue on YouTube. All right, so before we begin, let's just settle in, get the mind and body together in one place for a change. Ansanda Sankara Shiri Sempa Makaraja Vanishuna Susura Tangatsasu Kataram. Omechiki, keep Rodana to some single again, more late and such a soon to say. So when I may shut also. Okay, so whenever we begin practice or listening to the Dharma, we always start with our bodhicitta motivation. So, bodhicitta is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means awakened or enlightened, and chitta means the mind and heart together. So, awakened mind heart is the literal translation of that word. But the meaning is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, our entire purpose on this path is ultimately to benefit others. And we try to have this larger vision whenever we're about to do something positive, um, especially as it relates to the Dharma. So if thinking about all sentient beings and enlightenment and all of that is a bit much, at least if we could think, may the time that we spent together this morning benefit not only ourselves, but others as well. Okay, so we'll take a moment to do that. Okay, so Today we're going to talk about the four immeasurables. So, the four immeasurables are love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and impartiality. So, according to the bodhicitta motivation that I just described, our goal is actually to bring peace and happiness to all beings without exception. Okay. Not all beings except Donald Trump, you know, everyone, including him. Okay. So if we're sincere about that, if we really have that wish, that as our goal, then we need to discover how to open our hearts and minds, right, to another way of being than how we currently are. So in the Buddhist teachings, these four things are defined quite succinctly. Love is the wish for others to be happy. Compassion is the wish for them to be free of suffering. Sympathetic joy is rejoicing in their good fortune. And impartiality is to be free of prejudice or discrimination as to who receives our love, compassion, and sympathetic joy. So, why do we use the word immeasurable in this case? It's because we normally limit the expression of these things in our daily life, right? So, we limit our love to those who are always kind to us, right? And who behave in ways we deem appropriate or good. We limit our compassion to our loved ones and to those we see as innocent victims. And we limit sympathetic joy, which is the feeling of happiness we get when someone else is happy, right? That's sympathetic joy. Like, oh, you won. Well, I was going to say you won the lottery because that comes like, how much money are you going to give me when it comes right after that? But let's say, you got a job you wanted, I said, so I'm so happy for you. You got this job rather than being jealous. Okay. So like sympathetic joy is an antidote to jealousy. Instead, we rejoice in their happiness. So we limit that typically to those that we love. And then impartiality is seeing everyone as equally deserving, which we almost never have. Right? So the aim of this practice or these teachings is to remove these walls, to remove these limitations that we have to expressing these things. Yeah. And it might seem impossible, but it is really possible. It just takes a lot of practice. Yeah. When you see somebody like the Dalai Lama, it's very evident. Yeah. He feels that same sense of, really incredible love and compassion towards all beings. And if you're in his presence, it just hits you like a hurricane. It's so strong that it's really something undeniable, you know. So normally we put everyone into one of three categories. Yeah. Those we love, those we hate or dislike, and those it's usually, called neutral, those who are neutral to us, but it kind of has a negative tinge of like couldn't care less, you know? Oh, you I love, you I dislike, and you I couldn't care less. So if we look at these three things, we can see that they're very centered on the self, right? Like those we love because we love or because of like what they do for me, right? Those we dislike or hate, it's because of what they did to me. Yeah. And those who are neutral to us are neutral because they've never done something for or to me. Right. So it's kind of, they fit that category of neutral. Yeah. So actually, it's really a completely self centered way of being in the universe. Yeah. So this practice or these teachings are about kind of loosening that up. Yeah. Sort of breaking down those walls a little bit. Um, so and part of that practice is understanding that like we don't exist in the way that we think we do, and that we see the world and relate to the world through our perception, which is usually faulty. I mean, in the ultimate sense, in the ultimate truth, it's very faulty. Yeah, but even in relative truth, it's pretty faulty. And we see that, we can see that quite clearly. The way that we see something is not the way that somebody else sees the same thing, right? So, so as I said, so we're talking about immeasurable attitudes. Sometimes they're called the four boundless or the four limitless. So it's no limits, no boundaries, no fear. But that fear is going to be there until we work with that ego clinging and, this aspect, right? Um, so doing this practice doesn't mean that we throw our wisdom out the door, right? It doesn't mean that, like, I don't know, we have to invite somebody dangerous to live with us, for example. We have to still use our head. We don't ever in anywhere on this path just check our brain at the door. We have to use our own wisdom. We have to understand, you know, logically, like what is happening and how to deal with what is happening. Okay. So what we're working with here is not really the outer environment at all. We're working with our own mind and heart, working with how we relate to things, how we think of things. Not necessarily, it may or may not affect what we do, but the important part, the most important part is how we're thinking about something. Okay. So, um, in the, so like what we're saying here is to open up the heart. Yeah. We, like I said, like we can have love and compassion for someone without um, letting them abuse us, for example. Or we can have love and compassion for someone who has done something really awful and belongs in jail. It doesn't mean that we don't act to protect ourselves or to protect society. It just is, what are we feeling towards that person? It's the same with like when we set boundaries, right? We can, it doesn't mean we're not allowed to have boundaries. It doesn't mean that we have to be a doormat, right? So we can set boundaries with anger and hatred, or we can set the same boundaries with love and compassion. Yeah. So if someone is harming us, then we need to protect ourselves, and we should protect ourselves. Like we are also worthy of compassion. Yeah. So if we, are excluding this person from our life, we can do that. It's possible to do that with a loving heart, with care for them as well. Because it's not good for them either to abuse us or harm us. It's not good for them, it's negative karma for them, right? So we can think of it in those terms as well. So they usually are giving in the teachings, they give these four things in the order of love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and impartiality. But they also say that we actually need to start by developing impartiality, which is also often called equanimity. Uh, but impartiality is really a better word for it. And that means that we see everyone as worthy of receiving our love and compassion and sympathetic joy. Okay. So I remember when I was living on the east side, I lived on Middlehurst, yeah, which is like the next street over from Coventry. So a very groovy area, a really nice area. I really liked it there, except apartment. It's difficult. Oh, she arrives. Hi, darling. No problem. And I know what I forgot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you for bringing. No, we're not going to worry about that. I'm kind of like a little bit happy about it because you never make a mistake. And I'm like, oh, she made a mistake. She is a human being. So, um, so we're talking about the four boundless, yeah, and we're talking about impartiality right now. So, I want to talk before I want to really dive into impartiality because it's quite important, but I want to just mention this sympathetic joy aspect, which is an antidote to jealousy. And that's why I started saying, look, I lived on the east side, and the houses in that area are really cute, and like each house is like it's different, and they have something different going on in their yards, and I really liked it. And I was just living in this apartment for. I lived in that apartment building for 8 years, which astounds me. I was really dumb decision to do that, but anyway, I did, and it was haunted, which is another story. But um, uh, uh, and I used to walk my dog around, and I would look at these houses, and this jealousy would arise, like, I want a house. Like, why can't I have a house like that? Look at this beautiful house. I really want this house. And I liked these little houses, not the huge houses on Shaker, because I was always like, what do you need with all that space, man? Like how many people even live there? Two, three, five maximums. So I know that didn't really appeal, but these little houses did. And just this jealousy would arise. And then finally, like, duh, remember the teachings. So I started to develop sympathetic joy. I'm really happy for this person. Look, they get to live in this nice house. Look how cute their yard is. It's really, really cool. And I'm so glad that they found a house and all this stuff. And in the beginning, this kind of practice you do through gritted teeth, right? I'm really happy for you, right? Which is like not sincere at all. Okay. But eventually it does become natural. And then what happens is instead of doing your walk with a crunched up heart, this like, you're doing your walk with joy. You're like so much happier. So, it's good for others, it's good for yourself. I mean, sympathetic joy is almost a practice solely for yourself because like Songsak Cancer Vishay says that jealousy is the stupidest emotion. He's like, doesn't do you can't even do all you're doing is hurting yourself. He's like, at least with anger, you can punch somebody in the face, it would have some kind of effect. He's like, jealousy, you're just punching yourself in the face like nothing is happening. So, you know, with all these practices, when we talk about impartiality or love or any of these other things, it is a practice. It's not something that we're going to just be able to have on a moment's notice, or have just because we want to, right? It's something that we need to practice slowly over time. And it is really a case of fake it till you make it, right? We don't have to like have it really super sincerely. We can do it through gritted teeth. We can do it that way and over again until it becomes natural, right? So um, we should remember that. I think I really try to stress that in the teachings because we can, it's easy to make a mistake about these things and feel like because it's a mental practice, we should just be able to change our mind on a dime, and be able to do these things. But we need to think of it as learning, like learning a language or learning an instrument, right? Like my usual examples is like nobody expects to have never played the piano and sit down and be able to play Bach or Beethoven or something. Everybody understands you have to do those stupid, boring exercises first, right? I mean, unless you're Mozart, right? But apart from him, apart from that little freak, no, obviously, you know, rebirth. But so we need to think in those terms when we think about practicing and not in terms of like just because it does happen and suddenly we can change our mind, right? So like maybe we have a bad view of someone and then we see them in a certain situation and like, no, actually that person's a really nice person. And then from that point on, we see them as a nice person. That can happen for sure. But to be able to really delve into these deep habits we have and change those, that's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take practice. So please, we need to know, like, we need to be really patient with ourselves. Okay. Okay. So, um, going back to impartiality. So not only like do we base our categorization of people, right? Love, hate, couldn't care less, on our ego's desires, right? Our own kind of self-focused way of being. But we also have this notion that those people are inherently good, bad, or unworthy of care, right? And this is really something interesting to look into. Yeah. So, like, the person that we hate the most is that same person is someone else's favorite person. Is someone else's that person is the person they love the most. So, where is that hatred that we have for them? It's not in them, it's in us, it's in our own mind. So, that's the thing that we need to change, right? And I'm not saying like we should ignore someone's negative behavior, right? Again, never forget that like we still are using our brain in the situation. Okay. Um, so another, helpful aid to developing impartiality is remembering the changing nature of relationships. Yeah. So, we might feel like this person, why should I care about this person? Whatever. Um, but if we look back, even if we don't accept past and future lives, if we just look at this life, how many people like have we had changing relationships with, right? Stranger becomes a friend becomes a loved one becomes an enemy. If we look at that, people that, we feel this person really hurt me, it's very often someone that we used to love, that we used to have a really close relationship with, right? Because that person knows those bastards. They know, right? Exactly the spot, right? Our weakness, what to bring up. And like that person is the one who holds our trust and therefore is capable of breaking that trust, capable of betraying us, right? So that's a really good example of the changing nature of relationships. So if, you know, like if we think about like your first love, okay, where's that person now? Like maybe you married them, maybe they're still with you, but a lot of times, like I said, that person began as a stranger, right? Became like a love interest of some kind. Then we broke up or drifted away somehow, and then like now they're a stranger again, you know? Or these like when these really intense friendships we have when we're kids. Like I remember my friend Wendy, we did the whole pick your thumb with a thing where we became blood brothers, right? And we were going to be together forever. I have no idea where this woman is, and I even tried to find her. I can't even find her, you know. So these things change. They're not solid. Okay, they're not permanent. So if they're not permanent, if they're not solid, then how are we basing these labels? On what are we basing these labels? Right? Of I love this person, I hate this person, I don't care about this person. Yeah. We're building these things on sand, on a foundation of sand, you know? So, like, if these designations are changing all the time, is what I'm saying. How can we use them as a basis for deciding who we love, et cetera? Yeah. So, contemplating these points is how we start to practice impartiality. Yeah. We stop clinging to these designations as real and solid because even the designations change, the people change, the relationships change, we ourselves change, right? So once we stop clinging to these things, then we can take mastery over our own lives, right? Over our own hearts, over our own minds. And so another way to give rise to impartiality is to realize that fundamentally we're all the same. I'm not saying like we're all one and it's like you know, groovy Buddhist philosophy kind of way. That doesn't apply. It's not even one of the most misunderstood things about Buddhism is that idea. We never say that. So um, we're all the same in the fact that each one of us wants to be happy. Each one of us wants to be free of suffering. This is universal. All humans, all animals, all beings in whatever other realms. Yeah. Like even insects want to be happy, they want to live. So if you had an ant walking across the table and I just went like that, they would start running, right? They want to be safe. They want to be happy. It's of course the same for people and animals and other beings. Yeah. So even when we do negative things, right, it's with this wish to be happy and be free of suffering. There's something inside us that is painful or uncomfortable, and we make this ignorant choice to yell at somebody or harm somebody emotionally and verbally, physically, to get rid of that feeling we have inside. Yeah. Even if we don't realize it, that is, if we break it down, we can go back in our own lives and think about any situation like that. If we break it down, we'll see that's really the root. I was suffering and I wanted to be happy. This is what's at the basis of having compassion for those who act negatively. Yeah. So in a situation where you have the perpetrator and the victim, compassion for the victim comes easy, right? They're the victim. We feel bad for them. We want to help them in some way. But we need to have compassion for the perpetrator as well, because for a few reasons. One is because their suffering is the reason that they did what they did. And because of the law of cause and effect, otherwise known as karma, they're going to receive worse than actually what they're giving at the moment. So this is where, and then I want to go into this because we don't have time, but just briefly, this is where the acceptance of past and future lives is really essential if we're going to understand something like karma. Yeah. Because it doesn't always make sense in the context of just one life. Yeah. So this, anyway, I won't say more than that because that's a whole nother subject. Um, right. So practice of impartiality and the four boundless altogether is something that should be supported in meditation, right? And then put into practice step by step in our daily lives. So if we're talking about impartiality, maybe we can, start by something very easy. And this is the pattern throughout the Buddhist path is it's very gentle, You start small and you move on from there, right? Like even this fake it till you make it idea is starting small, right? There's no expectation that, with the, click of the fingers, like we're just supposed to have um, immeasurable love for someone who has abused us our whole life. Like that doesn't make sense. But it's possible, but it's a step-by-step process over time. So maybe we could try thinking a little more deeply about this couldn't care less person in our life or people in our life. And this is the really important category, actually, even though it sounds like it doesn't sound very sexy, right? It's not really emotional, but it's actually very important because if you think about it, the vast majority of people we come in contact with fit that category of neutral. All the other people on the road drive slowly in the left lane. Okay, right? All the other people in the grocery store, like the other people in the office, when we go to the doctor, like all those people fit that category of neutral. So if we are trying to develop like love and compassion for all beings, we have to include that category, right? So we could try, like, let's say with your neighbor, to just think of them more deeply. Like, think about the fact that, this person is like they have a history, they have a family, they have, they suffer, they have joys, they have dreams for the future, they have regrets, like there's a fully formed human being, not just some a-holes cutting the grass at 7 in the morning on a Sunday, right? Okay. Think of them and then they become your enemy. So that's a whole nother thing. But um, so these step-by-step things can really help. Yeah. Or maybe we're more inspired to work with someone that we find difficult, you know, that can kind of maybe be more motivating for us, right? To think about, wow, this person really hurt me, you know. Doesn't mean we have to invite them back into our life or get remarried to them or whatever, right? But just to contemplate it, that this person really hurt me, instead of just going right into anger and pain and all that, we can just pause, and think, well, why? What was happening for them, you know, that they did that? And, if you're looking at an extreme example like crime, people who commit murder and things like that, I mean, maybe all the time. I think it's more rare that this doesn't happen than does. They had horrific childhoods, which doesn't mean that we just say, "Oh, it's okay, you don't have to go to jail." It's come and kill me too. Like, it's not about that. But how are we feeling towards that person? You know, how are we relating to that person? Yes, they should be removed from society for sure. Or danger to society is a real thing. Yeah. But what's happening for them? What kind of intense suffering they had that, you know, led to this horrific act that they did. Yeah. Um, so okay. So gradually, like we'll be able to break down these barriers that we currently have with practice, with study, contemplation, and meditation, to have the same love and compassion for all beings that we currently have towards our closest loved ones. That's the goal, right? Okay. So, um, any questions? Any questions on YouTube? Any questions here? No? Okay. So we'll go into meditation then. So, all right, so we're all in chairs. So the thing you want to do is just put your feet flat on the floor. And then if you at home are sitting on the floor or you're sitting on your bed, just cross. Whoop. Do you need something, darling? I know, I see that. And are you okay? All right. Uh, so uh, uh, if you're sitting on the floor or on your bed or whatever, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. All the other instructions are the same, whether you're sitting on a chair or sitting on a cushion. Okay. So your hands can be in one of three positions, palms down on your knees, yeah, or palms up one on top of the other in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that, like you're holding a goose egg, whatever you find most comfortable. Then the spine is straight, which is the most important thing, actually, that you have a straight back, not tense, but straight. Back of the neck is also straight. So the chin is going to be tucked in a little bit. Arms are relaxed. Your shoulders should be back a little bit. So normally I just roll my shoulders back one time. It opens up the chest. Mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of the mouth, breathing through the nose. Ideally, the eyes are open, like half open, looking down in front of you with a relaxed, lowered gaze. If this is something that makes you uncomfortable, it's perfectly fine. Just you can close your eyes and then train over time to meditate with your eyes open, because it has a different effect on the brain, and we're less likely to fall asleep. um, and we're trying to train in like mindfulness in our life, right? So if we can only be mindful when our eyes are closed, it's a little problematic, right? Especially if you're driving. So we don't want to do that. So okay, so we take the posture, all right, and then we just take a moment to notice the breath coming in and out of the nose. Just notice that sensation at the end of your nose. Okay. So this practice is bringing awareness to that sensation, maintaining continuous awareness of that sensation, and letting the thoughts come and go as they will without getting involved in them. Okay. We're probably going to get involved in them. That's completely normal. As soon as we realize we got distracted, simply bring the mind back to the breath. Okay. That's the practice. This practice is about becoming familiar with the mind in a state of awareness and in a state of distraction, and being able to bring the mind back to the state of awareness. Okay. So let's begin there, right? Just maintain the posture, notice the breath, letting the thoughts arise, dwell, and then disappear on their own without getting involved, maintaining continuous awareness of the breath. So please begin that now. You begin to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath, for a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting helps us to realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted. So if you find you've lost count, as soon as you realize that, just bring the mind back. Start again at 1. If you get to 10 without losing count, don't let that distract you. Simply start again at 1. So please begin that now. Okay, so now we're going to move into the Tonglen practice, also called the practice of exchange. And this practice is specifically for developing our natural compassion and increasing our compassionate heart. I'm just going to walk you through it. Today, we're going to work with someone who's neutral to us so you can get an idea of what I was saying earlier. So we begin by just resting the mind. So not trying to concentrate on the breath or anything, but we're also not distracted, just letting the mind rest. And then imagine in your heart center, a bright white light like a shining star. So your heart center meaning like the middle of your chest. So imagine this white light. And then consider that you're breathing in gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy through all the pores of your body. And all of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle left. There's only light. And you breathe out this white light through all the pores of your body, the light going in all directions. Okay. Now imagine in front of yourself, picture in front of yourself, someone who fits this category of neutral. So it could be a work colleague or your doctor or mail carrier, neighbor, whatever. Just choose anybody who, like, you would recognize their face. You may or may not know their name. You may, like them a little bit, dislike them a little bit, but it's not a strong feeling of love or hate for this person. You kind of just feel neutral to them. Just picture them there. And then we start with what I was saying earlier, just considering that this is a full human being, not a cardboard cutout, not somebody who just has a certain role in our life or a label in our life of neighbor, work colleague, distant cousin, whatever, mail carrier, right? Like this is a human being with a history, with a family, with likes and dislikes, the hopes and dreams and disappointments, regrets, sufferings of various kinds. And then we consider whatever ways they may be suffering. So, because we don't know them very well, unless it's obvious, like they're in a wheelchair or something, we don't know what they're going through, right? So they might be sick or have other physical problems like back problems or arthritis, whatever. They might be suffering from depression or anxiety, mental illness, grief. Uh, we don't know, right? Unfortunately, just by virtue of them being in cyclic existence, we can be sure they're going through something. We don't really need to know the details. So we just consider all their suffering, whatever it is, takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy. It leaves them and it comes to you, and you breathe that in through all the pores of your body with openness and generosity and compassion. And all of that smoke just dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. And then you offer this person your own happiness. Consider you're giving it away, your own good fortune, anything at all that they may need to feel better. And adding to that the wish that they attain full enlightenment in this very life. And all of that takes the form of white light, cool and clear, very bright. And we breathe out this white light through all the pores of our body. And when the rays of light touch this person, all of their suffering just disappears. They feel so happy, so relieved, peaceful, and joyful. And you feel joyful for being able to do this for them. So I forgot to mention that closing your eyes in this practice is perfectly fine. So now we're going to do the same for all beings without exception. So first, imagining them all around us, in front, as many beings as we can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. To the right, same thing, as many beings as we can imagine, all the way to the horizon. Behind, the same thing, all the way to the horizon. And to the left, as many beings as we can imagine, all the way to the horizon. So now we're in the middle of a sea of sentient beings all around us, with the vast majority fit that category of neutral. Unfortunately, we can be sure they're suffering one way or another, physically, mentally, emotionally. Some of them suffering in ways we can barely imagine, so intense. Some of them less so, doesn't matter. Just imagine whatever suffering they're going through takes the form of gray smoke, hot in temperature, heavy, dark. So we breathe that in through all the pores of our body. And that smoke just begins to dissolve into that white light in our heart center until there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. And then we offer them our own happiness, giving it away, offering them as well anything that they may need to feel better, to be healed, to feel well in mind and body. And adding to that the wish that they attain full enlightenment in this very life. All of that takes the form of white light, cool and clear, very bright light and weight. And we breathe out these rays of white light through every pore of our body in every direction, as far as the eye can see. And when these rays touch all these beings, each individually, their suffering just lifts off of them and disappears like fog in the morning sun. They feel so happy, relieved, at ease. We feel joyful for being able to do this for them. And we let go of the visualization altogether, gently bringing the mind back to the breath, allowing the breath to keep the mind in the present moment, here and now. Okay, so we'd end the meditation here. Are there any questions about this practice? Good. Do you have those prayers handy? It's okay if not. We can just do. Oh no, if they're in the car, don't. It's fine. How do you keep that open, by the way? Oh, well, don't go to your car, Eileen. If it's quick, if not, we'll just do Sonam. Those of you on YouTube, there's a link to download the prayers in the description box below. Woohoo! And the rest of us are going to do these closing prayers. If you like, if you don't like, then, you just go to hell. I don't know. No, if you don't want to do it, it's perfectly fine. There's no problem at all. Is that not it? If you can, huh? Oh, okay. Well, we'll just do Eileen. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're just going to do Sonam Di. Okay. So normally we do the long life prayers for our teachers, and then we do the dedicating the merit prayer, and then some other prayers after that, and then the 100-syllable mantra. So I'm just going to do the dedication prayer today. Let me just share with you. Do. Wait, it's so confusing. But these things, like, they just change the menus on Zoom. Okay. All right. Okay, let's see here. Sorry. It's like 10 minutes of preparation for 1 minute of prayer, so it's okay. It's you got them? Okay. All right. That was okay. So we will save these prayers then. Again, if you don't want to join it, it's perfectly fine. So these first four, starting with the prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then the one underneath for the long life of Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche. These we just do in Tibetan. Our teacher generally encourages us to do things in Tibetan because they were written in Tibetan by enlightened beings, and so the words themselves have power is the idea behind it. But the other ones we do mostly in English. So Kanri wa wei po wei shinkan su pendan de wa mang lu ju we ni chen re si won ten sing yun so yi sa pe ga ga ba tu ten yu shi om swasti jig me ken pe ka lo yang paru gab se chen se se pun ta wa li de den san nam ge no bu cho se che ga wei sha king da su so Om Swasti Seva Gemso Chinab Tenjune Nunzin Taksei Gyuju Pema Tangsun Nadre Gyopo Tatene Napchen Tende Shaitan Taige Sho Nama Kunkan Sampo Sawadep Sutu Buse Ringwa Sawadep Rine Tashin Geba Sawadep Namadadre wa me pa chingi lo. So the other prayer, we say this one once in English, once in Tibetan. The remaining three we just say in English, and then we say the 100-syllable mantra. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free always. So Nandi Tamche Zipani Odne Pedranam Panche Kega chi balon chupai, sipe sole droa droa sho. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world, ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya. May I, inseparable from the practice of profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Tenopa Tishta Trito Me Bhava Suto Kayo Me Bhava Suko Kayo Me Bhava Anudakto Me Bhava Soa Siddhi Me Prayasa Soa Karma Sutta Me Chitan Shriya Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagawan Sawatata Gata Vajramami Musa Vajripama Samaya Sattva. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for joining me and us this morning. It's really good to see everybody and to have this big reunion of people I haven't seen for a long time. Um, um, We have, just want to make a couple announcements. We have meditation every Saturday. It's always on YouTube live stream. But the second Saturday of the month is here at the library. It may change as time goes on, but for the moment, that's what it is. We have a new class coming this Wednesday, so now would be the time to register for that, which you can do on our website, which is buddhistcleveland.org. BUDDHIST.org. Buddhist Cleveland, CLEVLAND. And if you look under study, it'll come right up. It's called Awakening Wisdom. And then 3 times a month, we practice Buddha sadhana together. It's really lovely. We just do that on Zoom. It's just half an hour. On weeknights, it's at 7:30, from 7:30 to 8. On weekends, it's 11:30 to noon. Let me see where the next one is. The next one is this Monday at 7:30. So if you want to join us for that, you're more than welcome. And then if you're able to make some donations, we would really, 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 really appreciate that. We do have bills to pay, so despite not having a physical space, really, if everybody, like we have, typically over 200 people who open the newsletter and more than 1,000 on our newsletter list. And if every one of those people just donated $10 a month, we'd be in such good shape, So please consider becoming a member, or just making a one-time donation would be, we would really be so grateful for that. What else? Anything fun? No. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. So mothers are usually awesome, usually. So, we can use tomorrow to be grateful for our mother in this life. Even if was not a good mother, we can at least appreciate that, she helped us in her body for 9 months and made sure that we stayed alive, at least that much. And if she was a good mother or is a good mother, then we can be extra grateful for her. And also, to think about like our wives and other mothers that we know, like Heather, for example, back there. Happy Mother's Day, Heather. And the Buddha taught that all beings have at one time or another been our precious mothers. So